International human rights groups are forcefully criticizing the new law, and the United Nations Refugee Agency says the law is, quote, concerning and regrettable. I asked William Spindler from the UNHCR about the reasons behind the law, as well as the impact it will have on Europe's refugee crisis.
To try to scare refugees away from a country and hope that they will go somewhere else to a neighboring country, it's not a very constructive way with dealing with a situation such as this. We think that this is the time for solidarity within European countries. This is the time to deal with the problem rather than hope that it will simply go away. Refugees are escaping war and persecution. They will not be deterred by these measures. These measures will only cause more hardship and suffering for people who have suffered already so much.
But what about the domestic population in the country? I mean, the U.S. has a population of over 300 million, Denmark's population less than 3 million, and they expect to take about 20,000 migrants in 2016. They accepted 15,000 in 2015. The U.S. says it's willing to accept 10,000 refugees this year. So, I mean, don't the people in that country have a point in the sense that there's a huge strain on their services and other countries really aren't picking up the slack?
Well, if you look at the countries that are receiving the most Syrian refugees, countries such as Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, they have received many, many more refugees in terms of the population. Europe has received last year some 1 million refugees and migrants out of a population of 550 million people. That's a very small percentage. There are parts of Europe where people will be welcomed with open arms because especially in rural areas, there's not enough children going to schools, there's not enough people in these areas. So we don't think that the number of people arriving in Europe should be a problem if these numbers would be distributed fairly. What we need is a managed approach to the situation. The situation is not going to be solved by putting barriers or by trying to turn people away or making your country as unattractive as possible so that people will go to the neighboring country.
What's the effect of something like this? Does this mean that people, rather than going to Denmark, they go to Sweden? Or, I mean, is it more of a strain on other countries? I mean, what's going to happen as a result of this, do you think?
Well, what we fear is that there might be a race to the bottom by different countries trying to make themselves as unattractive as possible, hoping that refugees will simply go somewhere else. That's not really addressing the problem. In our view, what needs to be done is three things. We need to, first of all, try to improve the delivery of assistance inside Syria, which is the country from which most of these refugees are coming from. Secondly, we need to help the countries close to Syria, like Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, that are hosting the vast majority of the refugees, over 4 million between these three countries. And thirdly, we need to find legal ways for refugees to come to Europe without risking their lives in this way. That way would allow for planning, for proper arrangements to be made before people come. Local authorities would know how many people are coming, when they're coming, what their needs are, and they would be able to provide for them. And refugees will also be traveling in a safe way without risking their lives in rickety boats in the Mediterranean. This is the way to deal with this situation, managing it, making it orderly, making movements predictable, controlled, safe, legal.
It's obvious that these refugees are getting squeezed in Syria. It's a terrifying ordeal. They make this trip, as you said, in rickety boats, life-threatening in many ways, to try and find a new life. But now they're getting squeezed on the back end. So talk to me about the importance of these peace talks that start on Friday. Does that put more onus on a diplomatic solution so that we can see an end to this?
Absolutely. What UNHCR and other organizations like ours do is to deal with the humanitarian consequences of these conflicts. But to solve the problem, you really need to address the root causes. And that is dealing with conflicts, preventing them from happening, and when conflicts do occur, to find negotiated peaceful solutions to them. The international community needs to reactivate its diplomatic efforts to find a solution to the Syria crisis and to other conflicts raging in the world. Otherwise, we will continue to see refugees fleeing and trying to find safety in places wherever they can.
William Spindler, thanks so much for your time.